guys. I'm with the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce. This is our commercial real estate roundtable. There's some new faces here. We appreciate all of you coming out. The way we do this, Carter Barrett, with Affinity Bank and High Capital, board member of the chamber, a great friend. He's going to be our MC. I'm going to turn this over to him in just a second, but understand that we're recording this on Zoom. And the only way, when we get to the Q&A at the end of this, the only way that they can hear your question is if you're using one of these microphones. And so leave it off right now because it'll, just run the battery down. But if there's a point that you want to interact, just ask for one of the microphones and press the button. It'll turn green. That's the only way that they'll be able to hear you. We have 30 people here, 35 people here this morning. We may have 50 people to download this over the next couple of weeks. So we continue to promote these events a couple of weeks afterwards. So this time I'm going to ask Carter to come up. Carter, you're going to keep this, but when you bring up Todd's going to stay behind and use this microphone right here. Okay. All right.
Well, I'd like to start by introducing our sponsor, the lovely Brooke Perez. Brooke, something you want to say on behalf of Georgia Power?
Unfortunately, I am not Brooke. Georgia Power is a great sponsor. In the last couple of weeks, actually, probably the last 4 weeks, they have brought us several huge, when I say huge, one of them was a $100 million project. So Brooke got called in on a project this morning, so she couldn't be here. Normally she, on behalf of Georgia Power, she welcomes everybody, but they're really the sponsor that helps pay the expenses of putting this together. So just a shout out to Brooke and Georgia Power. Thanks for helping us with this.
What a great turnout this morning. This is a heavy hitting room, to say the least. 20 years ago, I would have been chicken a call on half the people in this room. So that speaks volumes. But I'd like to turn it over to my great friend, Alex Warner, who's on the economic development team of the chamber. He's going to give us a project update. Alex, take it away.
Thank you, Carter. And good morning, everybody. Appreciate everyone coming out. I just have a couple of quick asks, just with some project activity that we're having. Pretty sure I know the answer, but just in case, if any of you guys have 18 to 24,000 feet by Q1 of next year, we have a tenant that will move in ready to go, but it needs to be 18 to 24. It'll be warehousing, office, and it needs 20-foot clear. So I don't know if you have anything, but if you do, if you can let me know. And then also, if anybody has any acreage that is not already on all the market, just little off-market acreage, you could also let me know. We can get that filled up and bought very quickly. So that's the only updates that I got. 18 to 24, please, you got it. We'll keep it company here. So.
A good update. Keep those coming. Before we introduce our awesome speaker, just take a minute to introduce Laura McDonald, our state representative back there in the corner. Good morning, Craig.
And I would introduce my girlfriend, Jane.
That's my wife.
Lauren, they did say it was recorded.
Derek, our new chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Right? Thank you for being here this morning. Always. Great crowd. Hutch back there, our past chairman of the chamber.
Oh, shoot, I don't have to go to the next meeting.
Good job. You have to go to more meetings now.
One more.
Yes. But without further ado, has anyone here ever met this guy over here? Show of hands. Anybody here not met this guy over here? All right, good. We'll make sure you meet him today. I'm so excited to get to introduce Todd on that. Todd is our longest serving commissioner on the Board of Commissioners of Forsyth County. He's in his 11th year, going into his 12th year. Been elected 3 times. I have a sneaky suspicion he might be elected a 4th time soon, and then however many times after that. Todd has probably the toughest job in politics, I think. And Todd, why don't you, instead of me talking about you, why don't I let you talk about you? Why don't you tell me who the heck are you, Todd? What makes you tick?
It's a good foundation. So I'm going to take you back to when I was a kid. It's always nice to know who you're actually seeing in front of you and who's talking to you. Inform your opinions based on their full history of what develops us, right? Every one of us are who we are based on our experiences throughout our entire life. And that's what really molds us. And we see things differently based on those experiences. It's just how life goes. But it's great when we're open-minded, have open dialogue, get to know each other and learn more from each other every day and get to understand who each of us are and why we are who we are. So I'll just go back to my entrepreneurial spirit. I've been in government quite a bit, but I definitely have an entrepreneurial spirit. I believe in capitalism. And I go back to the day when I started selling, keeping my allowance, riding my little mini bike all the way down what they call New North Side today. It was Powers Ferry Landing those days, through the woods, probably about 7-8 miles as a little 12-year-old child, and go to Treasury Drugstore to go pick up bubble gum and candy and make my own cinnamon sticks, and would go to school and sell them every week. About the third weekend, my mom opened up my top drawer and she saw this cash in there, about ready to beat me to death. I had to finally get her to back off just a little bit while I explained to her no. And I opened up the other drawer that showed everything divided out and how I've been making this money. And of course, then she wanted to put it in the bank. So for the next couple of years, I'm putting $20 in every Friday, give her $20, $20. Bought my own lawnmower, started cutting grass. I was a kid that knocked on doors to get jobs. Basically, I didn't, hey, can I have some money, please? I actually went out and I tried to earn it. And that's just kind of where I went through life. Eventually, I ended up helping my parents run a KOA campground up in Cartersville, Georgia, as a little 19-year-old kid, and then actually handled the sale of the thing. The problem was they put it up for sale. Every manager left. Job security wasn't there, they felt. And so there I was, stepping back out of college to go help them, my family. Obviously, that's what you're supposed to do, I do believe. Anyways, we did that. And then I started traveling with my dad a little bit, and salesman. He traveled 6 states with clothing. I did that selling to department stores. To me, it was the most boring job I've ever had in my life. You're a whole lot by yourself. Although it's only about 4 months a year, you actually work like that. So it was an interesting job. Between that, I decided as a young man in my young 20s, I'm going to go ahead and fill in those spots with a job at Sneakers Nightclub. Anybody remember Sneakers Nightclub at 3000 Windhill Road? Interesting place. 2,500 people would wait in line to get in that place on a Friday or Saturday night. It was insane. But with that, within 6 months, they offered me a manager position. I took that, quit traveling, because like I said, it was horribly boring. And then next thing I know, the deputy marshals that worked in security there, because no other agencies would let them work at that place. Atlanta couldn't come up there. They're on union, whatever. State Patrol's not allowed to work nightclubs. Cobb County Police weren't allowed to work. And so they came up there. I got to know those guys pretty well. The next thing I know, they're talking me into applying for one position that came open, and I did. And out of 300 applications, I think knowing those guys helped. Obviously, I'm not that great of a person. I just am an honest person, I believe. But anyways, they selected me. I went in, I took that job. I hung on that thing for quite a few years until my wife says, we're not having children, when I asked, until you quit your job. Because I'd come home and tell her about the fights we get in on a weekly basis, and everything went down in downtown Atlanta, because that's where I worked. I worked SWAT team, fugitive squad down there, and bringing people in that gave, as soon as you got them in custody, it gave a lot of people their lives back. They weren't scared anymore. They could sleep at night. And for me, that was very rewarding. I would actually thumb through my warrants in my drawer trying to find the people that felt they were in the most in danger by these individuals and prioritize them. I felt like that was an honorable thing to do. Anyways, that went on. The next thing I know, I had a limousine business going at the same time I was deputy marshal for about 12 years. I did a lot of international bodyguard stuff with the limousine business. I worked with the consulate offices downtown and started to meet a lot of people in the political world, obviously, with that, right? That's just how it goes when you start to meet everybody. When Nelson Mandela came to town, got out of jail for his first time, the sheriff down there at the time said, hey, Todd, you've got this in limousine. We know you. Would you go pick him up? I was no charge. I went and go picked up Nelson Mandela, which was kind of cool. I mean, so you start to do these things. And for 5 years, they assigned me the Martin Luther King family on Martin Luther King Day for their personal family security. There's tons of cops down there, tons of canine dogs and all that were down there before the event, doing searches of the building, all. But I literally would walk them to their bus, get on the bus, ride to Peachtree Street with them in the stairwell, get them to their bleachers, stand next to them, and afterwards get them back to church, and then I was released. That was kind of pretty an interesting job. But anyways, I just led to things. And then, so when I had to quit my job, because my wife told me to, I got into the building business, believe it or not. Built about 280 homes until about 2006, when I read the market was starting to go down. I had a small lumber yard I acquired in that time frame. Sold that. I pulled the reins back in 06 before most people did. I went from 35 to 40 houses a year down to 4, only because that's what I had in the lumber yard. I wanted to build it out. sold off those houses. I didn't have a single blemish or ding on my credit from all that, which is, being a builder is hard to say in those days, unfortunately, for a lot of people. They lost everything. They'd start over in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Pure insanity. Some people are still trying to recover from all that. And with that, in the downturn, I started doing mitigating stuff for the banks and stuff, fixing up those houses that they had got stuck with. And with that, I decided to run for county commission. By this time, my wife had already had a job at the E911 center here in Forsyth County. And once again, she's telling me how and what to do, which is not abnormal. But she forbidden me to. And like my mother, I didn't listen because my mom forbidden me to become a cop, but that didn't do very well. Anyway, so I ran for office. She says, you're going to lose. I'm going to lose my job. What are you doing? And needless to say, I got approximately 68% in that race, and so on and so on. So here I am today. So now you know a little bit about me and all the crazy things I've been involved in my life. So now you know when I think about things or I think things through, it's all of that that affects my decision-making process. So I am absolutely pro-business. I am not a guy that likes to punish people or put you down. I like to help you get there. But if I ever give you a little bit of a wall or a roadblock of any sort, it's not a permanent one. It's like, okay, let's work through this and let's make it better. Anybody here that lives in HOA wants their property rights, property values protected by their neighbor not turning into a junk hole next to them. This is what overlays are about, right? And this is why I believe in some overlays. My overlays in my district aren't so strict. Some districts they are. But I also understand certain things can get a variance to them because in certain instances they should, right? It just brings something good in. So what if you want a brick on the very back of it that can't be seen from the road, right? So we've always worked with people with those things sometimes, except for you can't get any on yours. But anyways, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But anyway, so so we're going to get in all this dialogue. You kind of know my personality a little bit, but I always listen. I always hear you out. And a lot of times we come up with solutions. You go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, or I'll do the same thing. And we usually get to where we need to be. And all those things that we do that sometimes people get upset about, the forge this county into better county, you can complain about them all you want, but everybody's wanting to come here now. It wasn't always this way. And we're the highest medium income now. We have the highest average house sale in 10 surrounding counties. We have the lowest millage rate and the highest level of services and public safety, county parks, all kinds of things. So it's not by any surprise folks want to move here from all around the country. And at least that's how I see it. I hope it doesn't sound too arrogant, but that's just how I see it. And I believe I've been a large part of that over the last 11 years. So, Carter.
The other day we were talking, I see Kyle in public down at Post Road and Highway 9, and we were talking the other day. He said, Carter, I don't want to hear you ramble on, Carter. I've done that a couple of meetings in a row now. He said, I want to make this interactive. I'm more interested to hear about what the people in the room think and what you think. And he said that to me. And so in the spirit of that, how do you want this to go? You want to be, is it okay to ask you questions as we go, or do you?
Yeah, why don't we, I think you've got bullet points. Why don't we hit on those? I'll go through it a little bit. And before we go into the next one, let anybody ask any questions on that item so we don't get them mixed up and confusing. And definitely want to hear everybody's heart. And by the way, if you want to ask a question and you think I'm going to be offended by it, and I'm the kind of guy that gets offended by and hold a grudge in you, that is not me. Any hard question you want to ask, I'm going to give you what I believe is the truth, what I believe in my heart to be where I stand and why. But we have to get there, right? And I may learn a lot today. Y'all may learn a lot today as well. Go ahead, Carter.
Awesome. So Todd, I'm kind of curious about the job because I'm intrigued by it. As I really thought through what we're going to be doing here today, I thought about you doing that job for 11 years. And I know you get like $1 million a year salary or something like that. Something extra. I'm kidding, because the hourly rate, I think, works out to be about $1 for you. Talk about the job a little bit, what you're up against on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, because you spend an inordinate amount of time doing what you do for the county. And I'm inspired when you work your backside off for the county. And you've been doing it for 11 years, so I think you probably got pretty good, you're taking good supplements or something. Talk about the job and what you're dealing with on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. Just give a little insight into that.
So number one, you do it because you really want to make your community a better place. And you hear that rhetoric all the time, but you really do, or you wouldn't do this. No, the pay is not great. I think it started out around 34 a year. You might be called part-time, but you're absolutely putting in 40+ hours a week. People call you on the weekends and write your emails. You answer them as quickly as you can. If you don't, they get buried and you start to lose them. we'll get anywhere from 100 to 500 emails a week. Now, the normal is more around the 100 mark, 150, 200. Some of them are just reading educational purposes, keep up with what's going on in other districts. You won't answer all that many, obviously. But with that, I think now after 11 years, I'm up to 41,000. I mean, that's a lot of raises, right? It doesn't keep up with inflation. It just doesn't. And it's because you went through classes at ACCG, which is attached to the University of Georgia, and it teaches you all about government law, how to do this better, that better, a little bit of HR. So you understand every aspect of everything in every department underneath you. Our government in Forsyth County, not all governments are done the same. Board of Commissioners, we hire a county manager. We try to get the best one possible. And from there, they hire people underneath them. And obviously, you're only as good as your employees. I mean, that's in every industry you get into. But you have the public that second guesses what you do all the time, and they don't really have an idea of everything you do. And if they would get on your website and look, they would see that you actually have comprehensive plans not only for growth that are sensible, that you have comprehensive plans for your parks, your roads and bridges. You really do have it planned out 20 to 50 years out. Although they don't know that because they don't necessarily go on those sites and look, and whenever we have these opportunities, now you know where to go look to find those things and what you're up against or what's in your favor or not. But anyway, it just goes that way. And it's a lot of educating, and a lot of the emails I send out are trying to educate people. And that's the hardest part of the job, is just to get people. Nobody's going to row the boat in the same direction because everybody has a different opinion. You make this group happy, you make that group angry, and you try to find your balance. And I tell everybody, I may have a title as a commissioner, but it should be spelled mediator, because that's reality what we are. We're stuck in the middle trying to bring people together.
How do you make 260,000 people play nice, and it's simply impossible to please even most of the people most of the time, right? Because someone's always frustrated about something.
Yeah, and I think I do a pretty good job of trying to find the balance of where the mass majority is and try to go there and then get the other folks to understand what we're doing and why. And a lot of it is just what people don't understand government law and what really restrains us and why we have to do things a certain way. It's way different than public sector sometimes.
Y'all jump in here.
Oh, Dennis Powell.
Hey, I know this is a commercial forum. I'd like to ask, what are you doing to help promote commercial development in the county?
That's awesome. So I'm going to go back a little bit, and it may have been one of his bullet points coming up, but we're going to go there for you. I've always been pro-business. I mean, I was in it, I understand it. And in fact, back when I was really deep into it, I recognize how cumbersome red tape can be and how cumbersome certain government employees can be just trying to flex against you and not even follow their own rules, right? They just want to make sure you knew they were in charge. And that is one of the reasons why I ran. I couldn't stand that, right? You work so hard. I'll give you some examples. When building houses, I was a very conscientious builder. I wanted to build that person that house to have the littlest possible issues on their house as possible and build it. It's their dream house, right? They spend their life saving up for this and will spend the next possibly 30 years paying for the thing. And during that process, I would have inspectors and you knew what they wanted. But there's gray areas. Each inspector had a different idea of what that was. So as you do build it to a certain standard, make them happy, he goes out of town or she goes out of town. The next guy comes up and wants you to reverse it, undo it, and build it the way he says it should be done. And you do. The other guy comes back and says, what are you doing? I thought we had an understanding. And here you go, switching it back again. $3,000. All of y'all have built anything and gotten into this, have redone and had to go backwards to do something again, right? So the easiest way to fix that is all those gray areas need to be discussed. They need to be laid out, and they need to have the understanding through that department for all inspectors to have the same thing. So this is where we started on things to fix this. And when I got in as chairman, we also started work with the chamber diligently to find out what they need their toolbox to bring people in. We also knew in 2014, we did the transportation bond. We have got to have roads and infrastructures, not to just support our residents, but to support commercial when they want to be here. We needed fiber in the county desperately, which we didn't have it at that time, like we do today. So all these things had to move forward to give everybody the tools in the toolbox they needed to attract people to move into their buildings or to move here, period, if you're one of them, and do business here in Forsyth County. So the chamber also discussed they wanted 2 employees to help facilitate this. Well, I was adamant about that funding, and it was a lot of money, guys. It could have been close to $500,000. They wanted 400-something thousand at the time, additional funding. I was adamant about us keeping one of them. and us hiring somebody ourselves. So when you go to the county, you have somebody you can sit down before you start drawing your plans, have to go backwards, that you can sit down with this individual and they'll walk you through department after department after department, holding your hand, and they're attached to the county manager period at the end. So when these employees down there want to bow up on you a little bit, they're not going to, because this person walking them through is attached to the county manager. Makes a lot of sense. And there's just no games played, or very little games played. And we've also sat through meetings with Commissioner Mills for about 3.5 years now. And Dennis, you're on it, and there's several other people that are in this room that are on that committee. And we listened to complaints from all sides. And we had staff in the room. And I think we've done a great job of where we're allowed to cut the red tape and fix things without jeopardizing the safety of the building code. And that's some of the places I've stood in all of this. Oh, yeah. Well, that's in the plan. We're going to get Vivian. And by the way, that super key hire is Vivian. Vivian, you want to stand up for a minute? It's very important y'all know Vivian. So Vivian's available once you have your zoning, whatever you're doing, a piece of land you bought, you can do something with. Vivian sits down with you and there's no charge. And she will help you understand everything you're going to go through to make your life easier and not have to go backwards. In addition, I think it's on Wednesdays, during that 26 to 27 to 28, I was chairman, we also got with a fire department sets aside a day also. So you sit with the fire marshal as well, because that could be super complicated. I hear some of my biggest complaints. Oh my God, I can't get my CO. This fire marshal is impossible. Sit down with them in advance, show them your plans or your preliminary stuff and help them build your plans so you don't have to go backwards. That tool's there, use it. It'll save you a lot of time and money.
Quick question. I mean, for me, it's palpable. Having been involved in the community since 1990 and seeing how things have been done and how they are being done, there's a palpable, even a sea change right now in the culture of the community with regard to economic development. And I don't know if y'all are feeling it at all. I mean, a friend of mine used to use the expression progress, not perfection. And we tend to fuss about the things we fuss about, but can anybody here tell that there's an obvious sea change as evidenced by the committee he was just talking about and the things that they're doing on economic? But these three guys standing behind us, has everybody in here met these three guys from the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development team? Scott Evans, Alex Warner, and Slade Gulledge. These guys are, if you haven't met them, meet them. Go have a cup of coffee. These guys are complete and total professionals. As solid as they come, and a work ethic that's unstoppable. And they interface perfectly with Vivian to make sure all of our lives are easier when we're trying to do a real estate deal or two. We all know inflation's coming like a freight train, and so we're going to need life to be easier on the real estate front. But Todd, there's a bunch of things that are happening in the county that we don't talk about enough. And I was hoping you might touch on some of those. I mean, you've played a critical role in every one of these. The first thing is transportation. I mean, you've been there for 11 years. I think sometimes we forget, 11 years goes by pretty quick, right? But there's a lot that happens in Forsyth County in 11 years. Population has grown dramatically in 11 years. But first is transportation. People are always fussing about traffic, right? But truth is, we just made incredible progress. And right now, it's palpable. You can look around the community, it's everywhere. The results of that. Would you talk a little bit about the transportation bond that you were very instrumental in 2014 and the offshoot, the byproduct of that?
Yep. So you go back, I guess, my first day was January 1, 2011. And obviously the residents, when you got in office, were saying build infrastructure before you do any more development. Don't put the cart before the horse. We've all heard those comments, right? So how do you get there though? It takes a lot of money to build infrastructure, a lot of money. And you'll hear people say, oh yeah, but we're the richest county in the state. That may very well be, but you got to come off your dollar and put it in the pot so we can build these sites. That's just how it works. And we used to knock on the door of the state and say, hey, why aren't you widening 400? It's already jamming up. Highway 9 is a nightmare. 306, 369, all these state highways are a nightmare. We need your help. When we sat down with the state people back in those days, they said that may very well be, but we have 400 million in debt every year, and we only got about 600 million to spend every year. That's what they were in the back in those days. And they said, and here's why. We get a lot of our money off gas tax. Cars way back in the 90s were only getting 15 miles a gallon. And now they're getting 20 and 30. So we're selling less gas in that aspect around the state, although our population hadn't doubled to make it up. And they said, we just don't have the money. We don't have the funding. So we were stuck. And they said, we help, when we went down to GDOT, we were doing it a lot. They said, we help those that help themselves. What does that mean? They wanted us to become partners, and they weren't getting enough partners in these projects. So the Board of Commissioners really had to dig deep and realize it's not whether or not you get reelected or not. Get over it, right? Let the people throw you out if they don't like you. That's not what your job is to make decisions based on that. Your job is to make decisions based on how do you best serve the mass majority of the public. So we went out there and did one of the most dangerous political things ever. And we put out a $200 million bond that we were going to give $81 million to the state. Where does that happen? And then, of course, according to the state, this never happened before. So we do it, and our citizens stepped up. I don't remember the exact number it passed by. I think it was about 64%. And we did exactly that. And that's when you saw the extra lanes go on 400. And then they stepped up because in the middle of all this starting to happen, they passed a state house bill that then collected much more on your gallon per your gallon on your gasoline. They immediately, when that passed, called Forsyth County back downtown, and all the top dogs were there. And they absolutely reiterated, we cannot believe y'all put your necks out there like that. Help us get things jump started for your county. You're absolutely going to be #1 on our list to help get things done. How many interchanges are happening in the state right now that you're aware of besides the 2 in Forsyth County? That's part of what we got jump started. It was huge. This just wasn't happening. We needed it desperately. And the traffic that hits 369 and 400, the mass majority of that is not even Forsyth County. It's people cutting through our county, but we got to deal with it because our citizens have to deal with it. So it wasn't about, but your finger pointing. It's about what can we do together to start moving this ball forward. And that's how you get things done. Sit down, talk, work it out. So they committed. Highway 9 is getting ready to start also. That any road project is about a 20-year deal. And I know that sounds crazy and most people don't get it. Y'all may better than others because you're in the commercial business. You actually got your eyeballs in this more than others. But when you start moving that ball forward and these roads are starting to get done, the planning is getting done and they're buying right of way and it's actually moving forward, I believe that is one of the major catalysts. Said commercial, Forsyth County is paying attention. They're doing all the right things and not bickering as much as among each other. There's always going to be some bickering, but they're actually getting this done. And our delivery trucks and our employees will have a quality of life there. And people started to come to Forsyth County in a strong kind of way. Our commercial has grown tremendously in the last 4 years.
What are some of those big projects right now? Big, McGinnis Ferry interchange, pretty huge, right?
Yeah, that was probably the most troublesome one of them all. If you look at these projects and they move forward, back when it was on the books to us to put that on one of our, on the transportation bond and on a SPLOST to try to fund our portion of it, 4 entities are in there, right? Johns Creek, Alpharetta, tip of Milton, and then Forsyth County has one whole half of it. So we knew that our half was going to be $18 million. So we put that in there to reserve that. By the time we got full cooperation from all those other jurisdictions, it's in the $40 million range now. So the relationship with the state also helped because they had to start helping us pull everybody together. And to do so, they had to throw a lot of money in the pot as well. So they were willing to do that. And we finally got there and that is moving forward. That was probably the most difficult things I think I worked on. And then the next chairman got in and tried to, massage it a little bit more. And we're finally getting the thing moving forward.
Coach, what do you think of some of the other big ones? Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, great. I mean, instead of maybe, you said let's swing them out there.
Yes.
Forsyth County's got its own development authority. You look at what Cherokee County's done in the past, let's say actually get some wheels under them. Does the commissioners have any idea how they're gonna actually fall into our development authorities that can actually do something in the future?
Well, we've given them a pretty big apple to work with and it depends on what, I'm sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt. Would you repeat that question so they can hear it here?
Yeah, turn your microphone on and slide it next to you. He'll remember he said better,
Bueller.
probably.
No, I mean, we talked about, and we've hit on it in some past
It's
meetings.
Scott, give your name,
Scott Hutchison, so Todd knows he can come after me later for hitting him with the hard.
but I'm not that guy. Yeah.
No, but we talked about before, Todd, and a little bit, and I'd like to hear what, maybe not you, but what the other commissioners have said too. Forsyth County has its own development authority, with the cost of land increasing and I'm for all the farmers getting whatever they want out of their land, but you know, the commercial guys can't necessarily compete, maybe the retail guys, but the office and flex guys can't compete with what the residential developer can pay for this land. Is there any way the development authority can get any teeth, i.e. some cash behind it? And how is that going to happen in the future?
So the biggest thing that we've done lately, most conservatives don't just want to give, right? They want you to earn what you've got and show that you're going to do something with it and you're capable of doing something proper with it. We have given them the authority to sell Veterans Memorial. We don't believe it's the best purchase in the world monetarily back when it was purchased. I don't know, it was in 07 when it was purchased. And it's just now finally getting to where the value of that land is worth what they paid for it, right? But we have given that to the Development Authority at a number that they have an opportunity to make $1 million or more on it. So that will give them a nice chunk of change to start moving forward, but they need to earn it and prove that they've got the ability to do business and make it happen, right? So that's where they are right now. And it's all about if they can find a contract and get it done. Yeah, I'm not a guy that likes to just give people money just to hand them money and they keep doing this, it disappears. I want you to show you have capability. And so they have a great opportunity and it's not a hard chance to make $1 million. We've given that somewhere in the $5 million range and it's really worth 7 to 8 million. So, I mean, even if they sell it low, they can have $1 million in their pocket or more.
We're starting to see a sort of a convergence of things between the Chamber of Commerce and the Development Authority that is sort of getting legs. Great new people added to it that y'all added a couple of months ago, in fact. So that is starting to converge. And obviously the great partnership you've built, the county has built with the Chamber of Commerce and empowered to do even more on that front has been hugely important. I've heard you say on numerous occasions, Todd, that we've got to get a balanced tax digest in Forsyth County. What the heck do you mean by that? And why is that important? Kevin Tanner told me yesterday that the total gross digest in 97 was 2.5 billion. In 2021, it was 16.6 billion. And of course, the total value, you multiply by 2.5 to get the real numbers. That's pretty dramatic growth. But what do you mean when you say we got to have a balanced tax digest, and why does that matter?
So Forsyth County is still considered a bedroom community, but we're coming out of that. It's when your residence is so much higher than your commercial. And in order to pay your bills, if you will, if you don't have commercial balance, those residents tax digest, you've got to increase your millage rate. So as you start to get a more balance, which a perfect balance is probably more like about a 40% commercial, 60 residential. I think we're around a 25-75 now, where X amount of years ago, maybe 8-10 years ago, we were closer to a 20-80 or somewhere in that about number. But we're getting there. It's starting to change. We have actually lowered our millage rate, done rollbacks twice since I've been on the board. Now, you may not feel it. The school board has raised theirs. I think when I first got in office, the school board was about 66% and we were the remaining. And now I think they're closer to 73 to 75% and we're the remaining. So you can, although we drop, but we have a school system that's fantastic, right? And people keep voting, yeah, fund them, yeah, fund them, yeah, fund them. We love this for our kids. And you know, that's how it goes. But the more commercial we get, the more we feel we're able to lower that down. And the commercial astronomically helps fund the school system, which is a massive asset, and without having more residents to fill the schools. So it makes sense. According to one of the zonings we had more recently, as a McDonald's zoning of over 900,000 square feet of commercial. In the board meeting came the chamber and came the school board representative. And they were massively in favor of this project. Now there's a couple people in the community that kind of, push it. I don't know, they see the big picture all the time. And they fought it and fought it and fought it because there was an age restricted component in the front right side of this piece of real estate. But the school board said, that's fantastic. They said the average house puts 1.7 children in our schools at about 9,000 a head. So we're thankful it's not that. And if we look at our statistics on these neighborhoods, 1%, 2%, 3% have children, and those are usually just hardships and they're very short-lived. They rotate in and out. And unfortunately, that conversation went on way too long. A lot of negative things were said about the development. And one person that claimed to be heavily for commercial on our board wasn't there that day. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. And the other one voted against it. It barely passed. It passed 3-1, barely. And we need commercial here. And there's 900,000 square feet staring us in the face. And not all the commissioners were going. And it was in a proper corridor and it fit the comprehensive plan and it had everything for it. And unfortunately, these are the different opinions of whatever brings them to them that we have to deal with as well.
Do you guys at the chamber think that you'll be able to fill those buildings out?
This is more of a.
A general, again, Scott Hutchison. so don't
And
get
Scott
mad.
Hutchison, by the way, why don't you go work with the Development Authority and see what you can buy that 33 acres for?
I
and do
tried that. I
something
don't live in
great
the
with it.
county. They couldn't hire me. No, but more just in general, would you mind tapping on, and no pun intended, like what you guys are trying to do with sewer in the north end of the county and where you're bringing it and how it's getting funded and stuff?
I appreciate that question. That was. So money is always the key for infrastructure, correct? And now for the first time that I can recall, we have money coming in from the federal government for 3 different funds that they've offered up. And this one is going to help us with some infrastructure. And one of them we're allowed to use it on is water sewer lines. So we've selected certain areas in the county that we believe need a little bit of help with commercial. And to help offset that cost that Scott was talking about earlier, where they can't quite afford to get in mixed use type space and stuff, we're going to be running sewer lines. And at the cost of millions and millions of dollars. And we hope that even though you have to pay a little more for your land, that infrastructure cost is minimized for you. So this is what we're doing. I only have one spot in my district that we're doing. It's down on Highway 9. You can see this area that's got, just hasn't been developed right. It just looks kind of junky. Well, there's never been sewer there. So that's going to be a nice catalyst to help that area. Commissioner Mills has multiple places up north end of the county off 400. Mostly on the west side of 400, but there's also maybe a little area on the east side as well that'll be captured in that. So we're trying, and it's all about funding and getting the infrastructure of the water. We know that the city of Cumming has had the pipe in the lake to withdraw forever and ever, right? We know that in 2012, we were paying them around $700,000 to $750,000 a year for the raw water the county pumped to its station, and we have full infrastructure for our own water department. But we're having to pay them that kind of money just for raw water in the lake to come off from the side to our pump house to get it to our facility to treat it. Well, in 2012, the contracts were renegotiated, unfortunately, to 5 times the money. And it quickly hit about $350,000, $375,000 we were paying, and it was set on a CPI. And obviously based on per 1,000 gallons, so as the population grows, that also causes it all to go up. We're close to $4 million a year just to pump raw water. So from the day I got in office, even before I got in office, I tried to figure out how we can get the county their own pipe in the lake. Well, that's been tried for 40 years, right? Ever since they realized, they said, no, we don't need it at the county. And then when the city got it, said, uh-oh, we messed up. When the Corps came to us, asked us to partner with the city to do something. They messed up back in the 70s. The bottom line is we got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and politicians were against it forever and ever and ever. Certain ones shouldn't have even been involved in it, but they were. I'm not going to even get into names, nothing. I'm just trying to give you the overall picture of it all. And in 2012, that's when it went 5 times the money, 10 cents a thousand to 50 cents a thousand. And it was on the CPI and it's climbing to where we are today. Then we had the tri-state water wars that came up, right? Those battled forever and ever and ever as well. Those have finally been in our favor. We're done. All that's done. We have a federal court rulings, everything's done. Multiple commissioners, 3 of us, went to Washington when I was chairman and brought a resolution to see U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen. I even got an appointment with a gentleman called Mr. Kirkland, who was a direct liaison from local governments to the President of the United States. And when I got there at our thing, he was literally at the door. I guess he'd already seen my ugly mugshot and knew right who I was. Said, hey, Todd. And so the conversation even lasted. Like I said, we're going to do everything we can to help y'all get your own pipe in the lake. And inside this resolution carried the actual verbiage from Homeland Security about the importance of redundancy of utilities that are life supporting. It's your own federal government saying that we should have this pipe also. So if one fails, we're not dragging these lines like they did in 2009 as far out into the water as they can to suck sand and water in them, because there's not two pipes. So this could happen should anything ever happen to that one pipe. So we've moved forward. We've even approved now the funding for all the designs that you could imagine are necessary for the building, the pipe, the line all the way to our treatment plant. All that recently has now been voted on to be funded for all these designs, including this pipe will be under the ground, bored to one of the deepest spots of the lake. So hopefully when there's a drought, we don't hit sand. And we're the ones selling it to the city of Cumming and being a partner. And hopefully, and my goal was, how much do you want to charge us? Because whatever you want to charge us now is what we want to charge you should there be an emergency on your pipe. And hopefully it goes back down and we have a better partnership again. And it lays down all the hate that's been between the city and the county, because we all need to work together, right? It just makes more common sense. But that is well on its way. We've even voted on, the permit's been sent off. We're just waiting for them to approve it. We hope by the end of, or sometime in 2022, we have the 408 permit. It's done, because all the obstacles are in the way are now gone. And those meetings in Washington netted Rob Woodall, when he was congressman, in the halls of Congress to make a pitch to the Corps. And it's very simple. Once all that was laid down and everything was out of the way, the 408 permit's easy to do. And we're there now. We also went from 14 million gallons a day on our permit, with a 1 day a month being 16 million gallons a day, to close to 50 million gallons a day now on our permit. That with our own pipe, this sets the standard for growth for everybody in the future, because you have the utilities you need. You go look out west with California and Nevada, when they start fighting over water, it crushes. And there's towns that are now vacant because they don't have water. So this is a huge, huge thing for me.
So our cumulative, including the city of Cumming, capacity is now larger.
Combined, they've given us massive amounts of stuff that should take us 20, 30 years into the future, amounts of capacity they're giving us, yes. And the weird part is, they've also come up with something called a storage area in the lake, right? So everybody needs a reservoir. Well, reservoirs are $500, $800 million. Nobody wants you wiping out all their houses and creating one. You have to have just the right cut in the earth and supply of water coming in. And then you have to have interchangeable water basins of how you change that out. Is so complicated, it's crazy. But we're there. I mean, we're there now, and it makes sense. And they sell you now this. The Corps turned it over to the state. They had to have an agreement. We had to agree to it. Everybody had to agree to it. So there's so much stuff going on, moving parts. And now we have what we call a storage area. And we'll have to pay the state per cubic area of a foot of that water. And that is going to be our storage area in the lake, becomes our water. And all this came out of the Magnuson ruling way back, I think it's 2009, 2010, when they said, yeah, Lake Lanier, that federal judge says, is not for water. It's not for recreation, it's for power and flood control only. Go away, everybody. Well, obviously the state said, whoa, 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 all of our jurisdictions up that area have to have this water for millions of people. They used Forsyth County as a hardship and won that case and got his ruling overturned. But that's when we started to realize, okay, they have to actually give us an area that says it's okay for you to have this area. This is yours. Yeah.
Todd, you've been a pit bull on that issue for as long as I can remember. And you were certainly the one who lit the fuse on that. At least that's how it seemed to me, because we were talking about it ages ago. CIDs, how do you feel about that new CID and you're down at McFarland? Is that gonna be meaningful as far as how our county looks, feels? Is
Yes.
it gonna be an enhancement for economic development?
Yeah, so when we were given all that funding to the state, part of it also was $10 million to the interchange. I mean, again, it's $10 million to the interchange at 369 and 400, if you will. And the state was willing to put in X. We put in the 10, but we're short. How do you get there? Well, the chamber has been huge at putting the CID together. I personally listened to it. I wish them the best of luck. I just didn't know they were going to be able to get enough businesses to sign the dotted line to tax themselves. Because how do you prove to them there's a value to this extra taxation on you to increase the looks in your area and get an interchange in your area, use it for some plantings in your area, and make that bridge and that interchange look more decorative, because it's now the gateway into the county. And they did it. It took a long time, but they were absolutely able to pull this off. And that's a large reason why we have another interchange going down in that part of the county. And if you look at the greatness of it, traffic gets off sooner and on the highway sooner, and it gets it off our collector roads sooner. And the same thing when Ronald Reagan's going to go all the way down to connect to it and so on and so on. It gives another side road. All of these things are going to help in the future. You just can't get there quick enough. But the CIDs are essential. I think they're the person that goes out there and is given that task to get that many people signed up, hats off to them. I mean, that's just an amazing, great sales job.
We're running short on time, but y'all wanna take a couple extra minutes? Y'all wanna do a rapid fire sort of question and answer with Todd? Let's let the dogs out. Bend his ears back if you can.
That's probably going to be the roughest customer I have coming up right now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. You got your microphone? You need a microphone, sir. Make sure it's on. Yes, sir.
Who are you?
My name is Nick Woodhead. A few years ago, the county had the opportunity to buy Lanier Golf Club, and they turned it down. Was that a mistake, or was that?
You say they did, but did they really?
Well, I talked to George Bagley, and he said they definitely tried to sell it to the county.
Yeah, I don't ever remember that in that depth, and it may have been just before my time if that's true. But when I was here, what I was involved in was okay, so that was zoned due to an MPD, right? And so many people thought that was crazy. That's not even the comprehensive plan. How did that ever happen? And there were people out there screaming, yelling that lived there, right? That were angry as all get out because they felt that it was done in the dark of the night and that the books were changed and recolored, meaning coloration tells you what kind of density can go where. That's how it was done more so in those days. And what I learned about it was nobody ever knew, but there was 9 cases in the courtroom challenging the zoning and everything about that moving forward. And all 9 of those challenges were lost. Didn't give the county anything to stand on to help them. Nothing. And then when it was under contract with other developers, how does the county step in and buy when that developer has first right? And they've already spent money on it. So now you got to buy out the original landowner. You have to try to convince the developer how much they want. Oh, we're going to make 20 million on it. We're going to make 10 million on it. We want that too. So now how do you start to justify that to your public for the cost of the land when you can buy other parkland at a quarter of the money, a third the money? And I do remember this was very interesting, and people will still say it's true, and they'll also say it's not true. You know, we talked about earlier, not everybody agrees. But what I remember seeing, as clear as day, that during the development part and during the ownership part, I'm gonna say, I can't remember the exact date anymore. It probably was around 2013-ish, 2014-ish. They came to the county with a large group of people. We sat down at a table and started to mitigate this. Remember, I'm nothing more than somebody sits in the middle of this and try to work out between people. And I sat in a room with Brian Tam and I. That's why I was there, and I could say what I heard and what I saw. And the landowner says, we'll take the back half and we'll donate it to the county as a park, free. Leave us alone in the front. Let us do our big MPD in the front. This is what we need on density. And we will literally donate you the 9-hole golf course in the back, turn it into a park. Personally, I thought it was a win-win. It's already zoned. They're willing to give you the back part for free, turn it into a park. At least it would have helped the folks that lived in that back part, not the ones in the front, not the ones with the townhome. I get it. There's never a 100% win-win when everybody's happy. And when you have 9 cases and the challengers lost all of them, where else do you have to stand on? You already tried everything that you thought was in the book to save that from being zoned and built out. Well, the state law and the Constitution under land rights said no, they have every right to develop that out. Now the question was that dense or not? I voted against the high density when we went to go change it that one time. I don't remember or not, because what was around there on density to me felt more like a Res 2, Res 3, and those lots were smaller. And those, this is why I try to encourage people when we go to do a zoning and it fits a comprehensive plan. Our attorney, Ken Gerard, will tell me over and over again, Todd, as long as you're in the comprehensive plan, if they've asked for something outside the comprehensive plan, you were well within your right to bring them within the comprehensive plan And I feel like I can absolutely win that challenge in court. And of course, no attorney wants to lose a case, so he wants you to do something that gives him that extra leverage to win in court. So you'll find me, if you ask for something comprehensive plan, I'm working with you because you're in the comprehensive plan. If you just throw something at a wall, see if it'll stick, we're gonna be battling back and forth for quite a while until we get you down to something reasonable. And all you do is ask for that in the first place. And the only people that really win in those are, don't get mad at me, Ethan, and it's not directed at you, are the attorneys, right? Because so many more hours are put into play, right? And I'm exhausted. I get paid so much. Yeah, right. And because it takes up a ton of time with me and my family as well, and tons more emails and angry people writing they don't want it. Just file stuff within the comprehensive plan and your lives, everybody's lives are easier.
And Todd, y'all are updating the comprehensive plan right now, right?
Yep.
You're having public meetings
Yes.
this month. In
Yes.
fact.
And keep in mind, super pro developers and super anti developers are going to be involved, guys. We have to take everybody's input or that thing can get skewed one way or the other. To get the most balanced comprehensive plan is to have the most balance of people putting their input on it.
If you need the dates, you can look on the county's great new website, by the way. It's very slick. We could have a whole session just doing a tutorial of the website. It's powerful stuff and there's a ton of data in there. So go check out forsythco.com. That's all. There's so much that goes on that we don't even know about, but it's pretty staggering. Anything else for the good of the order? Dan?
Yeah, Todd, returning to the subject of the importance of water, reservoirs, Lake Lanier, Dahlonega also has a very nice reservoir. The question is, over the years, I believe we get a terrific amount of siltation in any reservoir. Thus, it's reducing the storage capacity. I think that's basic civil engineering, right?
Yep, I would think so.
Do we have any studies, any estimates of how much remaining capacity we have in Lake Lanier versus 30 years ago, 50 years ago, that sort of thing?
There has been, right? And the pressure is trying to get the core, and because you have siltation, there's no way monetarily you could ever draw that out. It would be insane trying to get enough siltation out to create the water capacity that you're talking about may have been lost. And you have to be reasonable. Can it be done? Absolutely. Is it sensible? Maybe the more sensible thing is to raise a lake level up 1 foot, or possibly 2 feet. The Corps has been reluctant to do so or agree to do so. But it's billions and billions of extra gallons of water in that lake just by 1 foot. 2 feet, obviously double that again. So then you have the people that live there and they got their high water lines would change, or maybe not. It may fill it within those high water lines. As they went back in the 50s and 60s and tried to draw those lines before they put the dam in and opened up in 61, the surveys were not as accurate as they are today. And Master Survey may agree with us in the back. And therefore, those high water lines are really interesting. And some are going to be more encroached upon than others. And maybe that's why the Corps is not open to it, or at least not yet. But it's something that we throw at them all the time. It's something that all jurisdictions throw at them all the time. And it absolutely is on their radar. And what they did do, I think, is they're not draining it down as much as they used to or have to. Now the Tri-State Water Wars was won. And I think they were waiting to see how that played out before they decided what they were going to have to do or not do with raising it a foot or two.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Flint River, at the last bit of all of those arguments, was finally forced into it by the committee. Said, no, you guys are just calculating the Chattahoochee water basins and everything that drains to it. You also have to factor in the Flint River, Florida, because it drains and they come together at some point pretty dang close down there if they hit your Appalachian water. So that did get forced into it and was strongly one of the main decisions why we won that thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so 11 years gets me a little knowledge. Don't tell my wife I can retain things. I tell her, I'm sorry, honey, I forgot. And it saves me sometimes. Please don't tell her I can retain things.
Sometimes there are some benefits of getting gray hair or no hair.
And it's happening bad since I got in office.
All right, go ahead, DP.
Close this out. A lot of people, like all public officials, everybody has different stories about you, Todd. But I have a story. I've known you
I'm not famous, but thank you.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, just so people know, I've seen, seen situations where people have been hurt and way out in the middle where a helicopter's not even gonna be, people hurt or bad situations where some people have panicked. Todd always kept his cool. Never panicked, always kept his cool. And the second thing that kind of surprised me was whatever we were doing, wherever we were, he was always at the service of everybody else. He was always cooking for everybody. He was always cleaning behind everybody. I've seen him take sagebrush and sweep out areas. He was always at the total service of everybody else. And I think it's in his DNA, service. So, and I don't know if you're going to be running again or not, but I will tell you that I've heard this from everybody. You are a friend of the commercial community. And if you do decide to run again, you will be the longest serving commissioner. But I think this commission board is really, really good. And if you do decide to win, we need to be supportive because you are pro-business and you've been there.
Thank you, Dennis. But I also like to be there for everybody with common sense and just reasonable thoughts. I like to be there with anybody I can help.
And Todd, I'm glad to hear what Dennis said because Dennis will flat leave you out in the woods. You'll get eaten by a bear or a pack of wolves. It doesn't matter if it's on a dirt bike or snow skis. Dennis will leave you. So make sure to invite Todd along.
Well, what was your experience with that?
Oh, yes. Ow, my back.
He left Carter and I stayed with Carter.
Of course.
Hey, so Todd's been instrumental, and I don't know, he touched on it earlier, he's been instrumental setting up this developers association group or whatever, for lack of better terms, that we've been meeting on about once a quarter. Dennis and I, Scott's done some. Yeah, I mean, and different people have rolled through, right? Obviously, we can't tackle every problem that the county's got. We don't know every problem that the county's got. We don't build enough buildings personally to know every problem the county's got. So there's a lot of nice brains in here. If you guys got it, don't call me about it, please. But we've got the Chamber of Commerce over here. They're more than willing to take y'all's comments. So when we go to these meetings, sometimes we're sitting there going, I know there's another problem with this guy, I know there's another problem with that guy. I mean, there's a lot of brains in here. Let us know what's going on, because Todd wants us to build buildings and wants us to develop the county out, but we just don't know everything. So if you guys do have a problem, or had a problem, Vivian, let us know what's going on, let her know what's going on. I mean, we want to help you guys out.
And as we're building it out, we want it to be first class.
Larry Duckworth, Class A all.
Yeah, that too. And by the way, it took me 2 years to convince my commissioners that if we want to bring some of this Class A in that they desperately want, guess what? You got to compete with Alpharetta. And finally, they believe me, it wasn't my goal to have 9-story buildings that were residential. It's for Class A office. So now we finally got approved certain corridors in the county that you can do this. And it's between McFarland and McGinnis and my side of the district. And finally, that district commissioner at the last day when the planning commission said, no, you need to have it on your side too. We think it should be there as well. It's over there and there's several other places in the county. It makes a ton of sense. And anybody wants to get involved in those meetings, you can absolutely give it to the chamber. You all need to leave your card with Vivian or get a card from Vivian so you have direct contact with her. So when you are going to come to the county and actually do a project, get with them first. Save yourself a ton of time and money and aggravation. And Vivian will set you up with a fire marshal, have that connection, and you're allowed to go straight to Vivian and she will absolutely, she's a professional and she understands it probably better than I do. So absolutely go have contact with Vivian before you leave.
Todd, we'll need to get you back. We could probably do this 4 times with you in a year and keep going after that. Scott Evans, why don't you help close us out?
Thank you, Todd. We appreciate you coming and doing this. I've had basically, if you've been a part of this for this year, when we started doing open meetings again, I wanted to start out doing sort of Q&As with the commissioners. And we've got one more commissioner to get in the rotation before we've got them all. But we're trying to brainstorm ideas for next year. And, we want to fill up this room. Pre-COVID, we were getting about 100 people to this. And, we've eventually, for almost a whole year, didn't have these kind of meetings. So I wanted to kind of poll you real quick. When we were doing this before, we were doing lunch meetings, but to do lunch meetings, it was really to get people in, it was about 2 hours. So we'd start at 11 and leave at 1. You guys raise your hand if you like this better or if you like the lunch better. So if you like the lunch, this better, let me know. Just raise your hand. You like this better? How about do you like the lunches better?
We must not have very good lunches.
Bring it. All right. All right. So we'll keep it at this. And if you have any ideas of programs, just keep it on I don't have the date in front of me. I'm sorry. It just occurred to me. We're going to have Kevin Tanner and David McKee here next. It's at the end of February, but we're going to talk about what Todd was talking about, but we're going to go in depth about in the next 10 years, because of what the commissioners have done, there's going to be $1 billion worth of road projects that's going here. And these road projects, create new commercial corridors. So I'll send out the announcement probably next week, but just put it on your radar to please come back and bring a friend with you. We want to get every commercial realtor here and developer that we can in these, because these are great meetings. So thank you, guys. Thank you again, Todd, Carter. Appreciate it.
You get a lot of complaints from a lot of people. You have 260,000 people who've got your cell phone number. You probably don't get that many thank yous, but thank you for serving for 11 years and all you do. And thank you for making yourself available to us. And keep rolling. Thank you for what you're doing for economic development.
Thank you, Carter. Y'all, thank you for coming and thank you for letting me speak.